Chad, we've known each other for probably like 2 years now.
Yeah, at least
2 years. And around the time I met you, you started an interesting project. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I walked into a partial ownership of some beer bars in a new area that kind of blew up during the COVID time because all the bars were supposed to be closed. And some of these kind of snuck under the radar because they were open air outside bars that no one really knew about yet. So they stayed open a little, I guess, illegally, but whatever.
Yeah. So for people that haven't been to Thailand before, this might be a little confusing. But here, there's often a lot of rules, regulations about all kinds of things, including like bars and nightclubs and restaurants. But in Thailand, a lot of times those things are very selectively enforced.
Correct.
So this area where you had a bar was one of the only areas that was open for like late night bars, that kind of thing during COVID.
For any time bars. It blew up during the first wave of COVID, where everything should have been locked down. But once the second wave started, I saw it was like the only place that I knew to go out and hang out. The police allowed it all the time, and I guess or at least they pretend to allowed it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but the crazy thing about these kinds of things is like it's totally unpredictable, which is why having a business in Thailand, like if you own like a brick and mortar business, like a restaurant, a bar, something like that, it can be really challenging, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would always say like be really careful of any big investment because it could be taken from you any second.
Yeah.
If the wrong person wants to take it from you.
Yeah. So let's describe, because I want to get into this a little, but let's describe what exactly you had. So you had this little bar. How big was it, do you think?
Oh gosh. I think it was like 5 by 5 square meters, one of them, but it allowed seating on the outside of that square. And then another one was maybe, I don't know, 15 by 10 square meters or 15 by 7 square meters.
So it's like this tiny little, it's almost like the size of a large bathroom, right? But you have some chairs on the outside and it's in this complex of bars that people can walk around and hang out.
The complex was like 20 plus bars.
Yeah.
All beer bar style things, which, it means a lot of ladies working there wanting to get drinks for drink commission. Everyone has a bell to ring. Buying a drink for the whole bar, all this kind of thing.
So beer bars, right? So that's kind of one of the categories in the nightlife scene in Thailand. I would say in my opinion, there's kind of 4 different types of places. There's beer bars, go-go bars, nightclubs, and kind of everything else, like normal stuff, everything else. So for beer bars, how exactly does the business model work? Explain it.
Well, it's all about selling lady drinks. So you basically look for girls to work in the bar to ask customers to come in and buy drinks for them. That's really how it works. But it's typically not good if there's only one bar. They typically come in bunches. So usually to be successful, you need a cluster of these bars together to draw people in. They want to come and kind of bounce around bar to bar and take a look at what's going on. But if there's just one individual place like this, it might be kind of frowned upon, or people might pass it up and not have any interest in it.
Okay. So yeah, like the place you were in, how many bars do you think there were? 20, 30?
20 or 25, yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot. And during that time, they were rapidly building more, right?
Yep. And even now they're going to be building a whole nother stretch of them.
Okay.
Going to the next soy over.
Yeah. So I guess, a lot of people like this kind of thing. Personally, it's not my thing, but I think especially a bit of the older crowd, older guys that come to Thailand,
right,
this type of place seems to be like maybe their favorite.
It seems to me it's more of like a Pattaya style nightlife than it would be a Bangkok style nightlife. Yeah. So
so in these bars, there can be like a bunch of girls working, 5, 6, how many?
Depends on the bar. It could be 2 or 3.
Because some are small, some are really big. Like some have pool tables in them, and then
some have multiple pool tables.
Yeah.
So it could be 2 or 3, like a cashier, an owner, and maybe one staff or a couple staff. And every day maybe that changes. And then other bars maybe have 20, just depending on how big it is, right?
And the girls working in this bar, they're not there to, hang out for their health. They're there to bring customers in,
right? And
at that point, there's nothing really bad going on. People a lot of times I think have this wrong idea of Bangkok that everything is like, I don't know, it gets like so, for lack of a better word, like so dirty. But a lot of times they just come in, they chat with the guys, whatever, and then that's it.
Yeah, it just depends. Like, I guess girls are working there for different reasons, and it might depend on what that girl's priorities are, what she's looking for. And there's a whole spectrum of reasons to be there.
That's the key word, spectrum, because a lot of people that come here, they make the mistake of thinking that everyone is the same. It's all this way or all that way. And in my experience being here, yes, like this kind of thing does exist and that kind of thing exists, but it is like a spectrum. So you can find people that, I don't know, I'm trying to keep it safe for YouTube, but you can find people that just go, they have a drink, they go home.
Right.
And then you have other people that are more like hardcore about their whatever.
Sure.
So
yeah. You know, the big thing about this area too, what's funny is that you don't get a lot of customers. You don't need a lot of customers. It's just actually the good customers. Some people come and spend 10 or 20,000 baht at a time, and that happens all the time.
But that's like
$300 or $600.
Yeah, $300, $600.
Yeah,
how do you spend $600 at a beer bar in Thailand?
Typically ringing the bell.
Oh yeah, the bell. So okay, so let me explain. So a lot of these bars, they have a bell hanging over the bar, like something you see on a ship or something.
So don't ring it by accident.
Yeah, do not ring it by accident, because what happens if a customer walks up and rings the bell?
You buy a drink for everyone. Well, at least all the staff in the bar. Some
Yeah.
bars is everybody in the bar.
Yeah, so that can add up pretty quick.
Correct.
So why do these guys ring the bell? I mean, why do you think?
Normally it's just supporting. Maybe they know the bar owner.
Yeah.
Or they like one of the girls there at the bar, and they've sort of asked them, "Come on, my friends also need some help here. Can you ring the bell for us? It's just a little bit of money." And once in a while they do promotions on these things as well. Like, hey, you can ring the bell for a set amount of money. But usually it's just to help the bar get attention, and maybe more people will come over after that.
And if someone rings a bell in one of these bars, like, everybody knows it, because
Correct.
everybody
They all
starts
make a big
screaming
deal out of it,
and
right.
whatever. And actually, now that I mention it, I was talking to my friend, Bad Guy Mark. You've met him before, I think, right? So I'm seeing him later, and I was talking to him this morning on the phone, and he was saying, like, friend of a friend, some guy came to Thailand to visit a friend, and that guy spent 500,000 or 600,000 baht in one night out going to these bars. And I was like, how is that even possible? And I think one of the only ways to do it is like multiple of these, ringing the bells in these bars. So because it can add up quick if it's a bar full of like 20 people. So
Sure.
Anyway, so okay, so you had this small little beer bar in this like complex, and when you signed up for it, you had to give a deposit, right? Or like a security deposit or something.
Yeah, right.
What can you share some of the numbers? Because it's kind of interesting. How much did it cost to get this thing going?
Well, originally it was really cheap because it was in the middle of COVID. So it was just before the second shutdown wave of COVID came through. They didn't have many tourists here, and that place thrives on tourism. So they were offering a COVID discount. I think it was about 25 or 26,000 baht per month.
Okay.
For the rental.
Yeah.
But we knew that in 6 months' time, whenever they deemed COVID to be over, that would double. So after that, the rent went back to what it was supposed to be normal at about 56,000 baht per month, something like this.
Okay.
And so the rental's always like a condo. It's 2 months deposit.
Okay. Yeah. Here, if you rent an apartment or a condo, generally they want like a 2-month security deposit that they hold and return to you after. So, yeah, I really don't have much experience with like working in bars or nightclubs here, but in the US, I have a business where we produce concerts and nightlife events. So like I know how much this stuff would cost in the US, but I don't know what's normal here. The interesting thing about your situation is the bar was so small. So I don't even know if like that's normal or if that's high, or I don't even know.
I think it's normal for the area, the tourist area that it was in.
Yeah.
But if you were to go anywhere else, you could rent an entire building for 15,000 baht, like 4 stories.
Right.
Put a small bar in the restaurant in the bottom and have people living upstairs, everything.
The bar in the area was in Nana. So that's
right. It's a lot more expensive in that area.
Yeah, because that area is really known for these kinds of like beer bars and that style of nightlife. So I guess if you're going to have a place like this, you want to have it at the mecca of beer bars in Bangkok.
Yep.
So so how long did you have that for?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. Maybe a year and a half.
Okay. And so we met up the other day. I hadn't seen you in a while, and you were telling me what happened eventually. So can you go into that?
Yeah, so the place became ultimately really popular, maybe the most popular area in Bangkok for a while, as other places weren't allowed to open due to the COVID restrictions. Eventually, they started to open up slowly, but they had lost a lot of customers. So at some point, there was a big setup of some sort to close this place down. I guess a couple of underage girls started working in one of the bars. From what I saw, the bar owner got arrested, but didn't get in any trouble, and was just out of that plaza.
Yeah.
So it seemed maybe they were in on it. I don't know.
All right.
But anyhow, so after this, everything closed for 3 days only. After 3 days, everything opened up. After the 3 days, a government officer came and said, hey, this place is not licensed to be an entertainment plaza. It's only supposed to be a parking lot. So they shut everything down for 4 months. So at that time, no one really trusted the property managers. They were kind of really deceitful. They'd already kind of cheated the system. And for myself, I didn't want to go back and join again. So basically, they used that as an excuse to blame the other bar owners, but also raise the rents, change the geography a little bit of all the bars. So in my case, they destroyed the bar.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a really polite way to say they just bulldozed your bar.
Yeah, they knocked my bar down and said they were going to make a parking structure, which they never made.
And they didn't tell you they were going to do this. You just showed up one day.
No, they told us. They said,
did.
hey, we're tearing your bar down. We're moving you to this other space that's smaller, and now I wouldn't have access for the outside seating anymore because there'd be bars bordering this one. And then they said, my rent has now gone up, and I have to pay more deposit.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm under contract, and you tore my bar down, and I would certainly not pay for more. You should be rebuilding my bar and paying for that. And so I just took the deposit back and said, forget it, which took at least 9 months to get the money back. They kept making excuses that they had trouble, didn't want to pay anything back until someone finally re-rented the space, and then they gave the money back.
So this is a really typical situation, I think, here in Thailand.
Yeah.
Because, back in the US, if you have a contract, especially for something like this, it's usually pretty good. You can rely on it, usually. And if something happens, it goes to court and whatever. Here, the system is very different. So in your case, this plot of land where these bars are, I don't know exactly what it's for, but do we think maybe they're waiting to build a condo on it or something?
Everyone thinks that's eventually the plan. Yeah. And I've heard now that they've given them a 3-year window. They can still stay and run bars. But the whole place was supposed to be a parking structure. So they built a condo across the street. And they were supposed to build a parking garage there for this place. And for some of the local businesses. But that never happened. And so they ended up building like a tin roof pop-up style bar plaza instead.
Right. Yeah. So in this case, they're waiting for permits or they're waiting for some construction to eventually happen. But in the meantime, someone has the great idea, hey, we can make some money on this land in this prime location. So they just set up these like rinky-dink bars.
Yep.
And once it starts to get popular, it snowballs more and more open until you have a whole spread of bars, like however many, 20 or 30. But then the problem is when they're ready to do whatever they want to do, they need to get everybody out. But you can't just kick everyone out, right? So we think maybe they set up this thing where they plant underage girls, or maybe they're not underage, I don't even know. And then they say, oh, there's illegal activity going on here, and they shut the whole thing down.
Yeah,
but really the whole thing is like orchestrated. So we don't know if that's what happened. I want to be clear. We just like speculating, but
well, my theory was that some other entity, another area that's popular, wanted the girls to come back to work to that area.
All right, because
and
COVID
they wanted
was
customers
ending.
back.
Yeah,
Correct.
because during COVID, so many places were closed.
Yeah, they were just starting to open back up, but they weren't opening as normal. They were opening. They could only sit outside and be open. They couldn't use the inside other than the bathrooms.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're thinking about starting a business in Bangkok, these are the stories you need to hear about because it really is cutthroat.
If you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the full episode, click right here.